1924 with an extension that was added to the back circa 1957. Original exterior, though there has been some cladding to the western wall. The roof does retain some of the original red clay tiles, though most have been replaced with slate. The estate agent, Rowena, rattles off a litany of features in a prosaic home counties monotone. I stopped listening after a while. I know most of it already from the viewing spec, so I let my eyes gaze over the front of the house to try and get more of a subjective feel for it. Red herringbone brickwork, twin bay windows either side of a gabled front porch, and a solid oak front door painted leafy green. Quaint, without being twee, and from the front, in seemingly good repair. Not much of a front garden, just a small patch of overgrown lawn and an untended flower bed. There's no garage, obviously, but there's plenty of parking on the driveway, as you see. Rowena glances over to my road-weary hatchback, self-consciously parked next to her sleek black BMW. Shall we go inside? It's much cooler in there. She's wearing a perfectly cut blue two-piece with not a speck of perspiration to be seen. Me, on the other hand, in my sweat-soaked t-shirt, look like I've been sat in the car for the last 3 hours. Which, of course, I have. Stuck in motorway traffic to begin with, and then more recently in ever-increasing circles trying to find the tiny Essex village, let alone the little narrow lane that leads to the house, which isn't even marked on a map. I'm late for my viewing, and Rowena isn't happy about it. So you drove all the way down from London? She asks as she unlocks the front door. On your own? As if I'm incapable of the task. My husband had to work today. He's a journalist. That seems to impress her, and her attitude towards me changes ever so slightly. I don't let on that he works for one of the tabloids. In contrast to the brightness outside, the entrance hallway is quite gloomy, but thankfully cool. The floor is tiled dark green, with doors off to the left and right. Straight ahead, a wide banistered staircase that's carpeted in a repulsive mustard and brown. The estate agent leads me through first to the door on the left, into, well, what must have been the living room, though it's stripped bare of all furnishings. Once again, in a patronising tone, Rowena lists the room's obvious features, and once again I drift off, and I try to imagine what we could do with the room. Large sofa there, smaller sofa there, TV in that corner, and the large bookshelf against that wall, perhaps? But definitely rugs, not carpet. These floorboards would look beautiful once polished. For some reason, I picture an antique leather armchair by the fireside. Not my taste at all, really, but I just feel it ought to be there for some reason. A place to sit and to read and to think. For the first time since my journey here, I feel a sense of optimism. This could be exactly what Andrew and I are looking for. The previous owner was an old lady, a widow. She died almost a year ago, Rowena informs me, as she leads me far too prematurely out of the living room. She had no close relatives, so probate's taken a long time to resolve. The property has only just become available. I hate the way she says the word, the property. I mean, it's a house for God's sake. We happened upon this quite by chance, I remark conversationally. We weren't even looking in this part of the world, and then a friend of ours just happened to... But Rowena clearly isn't interested in my little anecdote, wishing to get the tour over as quickly as possible. She leads me through an unremarkable dining area into a large kitchen that's tiled in the same dark green with solid oak worktops and a sturdy porcelain sink. There's even one of those old-fashioned larders or pantry, the sort of thing you can walk into. Rowena informs me that there used to be an Aga. I'm not really sure what an Aga is, but I nod sagely as we move on. The ground floor tour is completed by a small square room with French windows that open out onto the back garden. Andrew would undoubtedly claim this to be his study. As vacant possession, there's considerable interest, drones Rowena, as she opens the French windows, letting in a wave of humid air. I shouldn't imagine a property like this to be on the market for very long. I want to say to her, look, spare me the sales pitch. We've been looking for houses for almost 3 months. But instead, I reply that we already have a buyer for our home in London, a 1-bedroom flat in Pimlico, which means we could put in an offer straight away, should we decide it's what we want. The fact is, the more I see of the house, the more I decide it is what we want. Upstairs or garden? The estate agent asks briskly. I don't really fancy venturing out in that heat just yet, so we take the stairs. That carpet really is hideous. It seems to give off the odour of old lady. And as we ascend, I picture ancient slippered feet slowly mounting each step with agonising care, accompanied by a slow and deliberate tock, tock of a grandfather clock in the hall. The landing, in contrast to the entrance hall, is quite narrow. It's just a L-shaped corridor feeding 3 bedrooms, a bathroom and a separate toilet. We start with the bathroom and then onto the 2 smaller bedrooms and then end up at the master bedroom. Our bedroom. I know this is going to be the clincher. Wow, I exclaim, unable to help myself. Yes, it is rather impressive, isn't it? My guide says with a self-satisfied smile. It's enormous, twice the size of the one we share in Pimlico, with high ceilings and flooded with natural light thanks to a panoramic window with views over the garden and countryside beyond. The old lady must have been lost in here. As far as I'm aware, she never used this room. After the death of her husband, she slept in the smaller room. She then starts going on about the light fittings or the architrave or something, but I'm not listening. I'm visualising a king-size bed with rows of solid pine furniture and a dressing table. And a cot. A cot at the foot of the bed. My heart starts to race. This is it. I'm elated with that rare feeling you get when you just know something's right. If we were to put an offer today, like immediately, is there a way we can, how can we secure it? I burble excitedly, doing exactly what Andrew told me not to do, revealing my hand too soon. Well, there are other people wanting to view the property, so... Rowena is then interrupted by a loud, high-pitched trill that bounces off the empty room like a ball in a squash court. She takes out her mobile phone from her handbag. Apologies, one moment, she says, as she steps outside the room to answer the call. Mobile phones. Andrew has one, and increasingly so do most of my friends, but I'm trying to resist. I find them so intrusive. But I wish I had one now. Just to call Andrew to tell him that we found our dream home and that we need to put in an offer straight away. There are other people wanting to view it. Other people? I don't want other people traipsing around my house. I walk over to the window and look down at the garden. Our garden. It's woefully overgrown, with grass and weeds waist height that almost conceal a stony pathway that leads the full length of it, which is a good 50 yards. But what a project this would be, to transform it into a garden of delight with neatly cut lawn and a flower bed and a swing. We'd have to have a swing. I can see Andrew with our child, our children. I can see them running and laughing, and I can see a man in the field, just beyond the broken fence. He's crouched beneath a giant sycamore tree. I hadn't noticed him before, and I can barely make him out now. Almost lost in a dark shadow. He's a very tall man with dark hair and a beard, and he's wearing a long black coat which must be absolutely stifling in this weather, especially as I can see now that he's quite energetically digging. I gaze mesmerised by the rhythmic fall and rise of the spade and the shower of soil that flies behind him. The force in which he attacks each downward stroke causes me to feel somehow nauseous. Apologies, that was the office. I jump a little as Rowena re-enters the room. My 3 p.m.s are running late. I turn to her. 3 p.m.s? My 3 o'clock appointment to view the house. What, today? I'm alarmed. Well, I did say there were other people wanting to view the property, but it does give you a little bit longer to walk around and have a look. Garden? Yes. Yeah, the garden. Yes, please. Whoever these 3 p.m. people are, I hope they get lost or stuck in traffic permanently. Oh, in any case, I need to speak to Andrew and soon. I wonder if there's a phone box in the village. As we approach the top of the stairs, I glance up and notice a hatched door in the ceiling. Loft? I ask. Yes, Rowena replies, as if she's only just noticed it herself. I have no idea what's up there, but given the structure and size of the roof, I'd imagine there's quite a lot of storage. I suppose I could ask to call Andrew on her phone. I doubt that she'd like that. And I don't really know how to use them anyway. We reach the garden through the French windows in Andrew's study and... See, I'm calling it that already. And the heat nearly knocks me back off my heels. It's bright too, so I fish out my sunglasses. Rowena is clearly not willing to brave the jungle and is quite content to let me pick my way through the weeds and long grass by myself, tiptoeing along a barely visible pathway. Distracted by the threat of being gazumped by the 3 p.m.s, I'd completely forgotten about the man I saw earlier in the field digging. And as I reach the bottom of the garden, I feel suddenly anxious. But there's no sign of the man or spade. I look back at Rowena and she's on her phone again, not watching. I slowly step over the lopsided picket fence and take a cautious circuit around the lone sycamore tree. Thankfully, he's not there, spade raised. But curiously, the sun-baked earth looks completely undisturbed. No evidence of digging whatsoever. I couldn't have imagined it. I lean against the tree, taking advantage of the shade it affords, and I view the house from this new aspect. I love the shape of it, the symmetry, the brickwork, the chimney stack, the panoramic window with the... Wait, is there someone there at the window, looking down at me? Rowena? No, she's still on her phone where I left her. I take off my sunglasses and squint at the window. The light is reflecting off the glass, so it's difficult to tell. But no, there's no one there. Must be the heat playing tricks on me. First the phantom digger and now this. Right, get a grip. Focus. Right, I need to speak to Andrew and get him to put in an offer immediately. He's going to need convincing. He's going to need a full forensic report and not just me saying, oh, I love it. I'm going to need to revisit every room. I tread back down the garden to Rowena, who covers the mouthpiece of her phone and whispers, sorry, personal call. Feel free to... I need no further invitation and step quickly back into the coolness of the house. Upstairs. Rowena's tour had been a bit whistle-stop, so now I take my time looking over the bathroom and the two smaller bedrooms, memorising how they are, visualising how they could be. Just before I reach the master bedroom, I glance up and notice the hatch door. It's far too high for me to reach, but I wonder. Directly below the hatch is a small door to an airing cupboard. I open it and peer inside. There, a long wooden pole with a brass hook at the end. Just like the one my parents used to have in their house. Carefully, I attach the hook to the small metal ring on the hatch door and twist it. The hatch door falls open, dropping down on its hinges, and a shaft of dusty light shines through the opening. If I'm right, there should be a ladder. Oh, yes. Once again, I use the hook and connect it to the bracket on the bottom rung and yank it. And I watch with satisfaction as two parts of a wooden ladder unfold themselves, sliding down like a magic stairway to my feet. I stealthily lean over the banister and listen. Rowena's conversation's still in full flow. So I turn and climb the wooden steps. I'm expecting a cobwebby, dim and dingy space with a few joists and rafters and perhaps a few old boxes of junk. But what I discover is astonishing. Flooded with natural light, thanks to a window that's fitted in the slant of the roof, which you can't see from the ground. It's an entire other room. Well, actually, no, it's not just a room, it's a studio. I stand fully upright on solid floorboards and take it all in. The walls and ceiling are painted white, the thick, dark beams contrasting in dark mahogany. Along one end is a long trestle table that's littered with all manner of an artist's paraphernalia. Paintbrushes, palettes, charcoals, oils, a rolled canvas, sketch pad, scissors. At the other end, an ancient wooden stool, and next to it, an easel that's been covered over with a ragged paint-splattered sheet. Slowly I cross to it and carefully lift back the shroud. I gasp as the face of a beautiful woman is looking back at me. Rich, copper-coloured hair cascades across bare shoulders, framing an almond-shaped face with high cheekbones and eyes so green and vivacious. I feel myself shrink with inadequacy. Her expression, though, is far from superior. It's soft and unassuming, meek almost. It seems, and I know this seems an odd thing to say, but pleased to see me. I wonder who she is. Portrait of the former owner, perhaps, in her youth? It's difficult to tell how old the painting is. Perhaps the old lady was the artist. I can't really imagine her clambering that ladder in recent years. I could stay looking at her for hours. But the sound of Rowena's voice rises from below, and I wrench my gaze from the portrait. Yeah, sounds like she's calling me. Damn. She couldn't possibly know what's up here. She would have said something. If she finds out about it now, the price of the house might be increased, perhaps beyond our reach. I cross swiftly to the loft hatch and reverse back down the ladder, glancing at the woman in the portrait one last time. Perhaps I should have covered her over. It seems wrong to hide her away again. I smile goodbye and continue my descent. My foot is just reaching for the landing floor when I hear or sense someone standing behind me. I freeze, my hands gripping tightly to the rails of the ladder. I take a deep breath and turn. There's no one there. I check the doors off of the corridor, but they're all closed. Perhaps the fear of discovery is playing tricks on me. Either that or the strange experience of finding the portrait in the loft. Rowena is still downstairs. I can hear her. Although there's a heightened emotion in the estate agent's voice now. The dry monotone replaced with a more urgent pitch. In fact, it sounds almost like crying. I take a few furtive steps down the stairs and listen. Yeah, sound of sobbing, definitely. It's none of my business, and she will surely resent the intrusion, but instinctively, I continue downstairs to find her. The crying, now that I'm closer, it sounds more like pleading, is coming from the living room. I cross the door and slowly push it open. Hello? The room is completely empty. Then, through the window, I see Rowena outside, leaning against her car. She's still on the phone, but She's looking far from upset. In fact, grinning, looking quite pleased with herself. I couldn't have mistaken sobbing for laughter. And then how could I have that? Footsteps. Directly overhead. Unmistakably on the floorboards above me. So I hadn't mistaken it. There was someone upstairs when I was coming down the loft ladder. They must have hidden in one of the rooms. Right. I'm not having this. I march out the living room and climb the stairs, not caring if they hear me coming. It's not bravery, it's not curiosity, it's a sense of ownership. This is my house and someone is upstairs trespassing and playing tricks on me. As I reach the landing, I glimpse a shadow pass through the open hatch into the loft. I stand at the foot of the ladder and look up. It's not so bright up there now. Quite dark, in fact. But undaunted, I continue my ascent. It's only when my head passes through the hatch door do I feel a prickle of fear and wish I'd summoned Rowena to join me. I take a complete 360 view of the room before climbing the rest of the way up. A cloud must have passed over outside now because it is so dark and cold. But no intruder. Yet, what meets my eyes fills me with horror. In the dim light, the trestle table has been overturned, and paint, red, black and green, violently splattered on every wall. Ripped pages strewn across the floor. I pick up one, and then another and another. All of the same image, the same pencil sketch of a woman. The woman in the portrait. I look over at the easel. It's been covered over again. Not wanting to see, but having to see. I stretch my hand forward and pull back the sheet. The same beautiful, lonely face. The same copper-coloured hair. But those eyes, those sparkling green eyes are gone. Sickeningly stabbed out, leaving black, empty holes. I want to scream, but my throat is dust dry. I want to run, but every muscle is like stone. Then I hear the movement behind me. In the corner of the loft, veiled in shadow, crouches a tall bearded man in a black coat. The man I saw earlier in the field, furiously digging beneath the tree. He's looking down at his trembling hand that's clutching a long, sharp pair of scissors. I gasp and he looks up, but not at me, through me, beyond me. In his eyes, it's an insane rage, a malicious intent. He rises to his feet, stooping slightly, too tall for the wooden beams. All at once I know who the plaintive cries I heard earlier belong to, and what this man is going to do. It makes no sense, but I have to reach her first, to warn her. I cross quickly to the hatch ahead of him, and forsaking the ladder, I let myself drop straight down to the floor below, twisting my ankle as I land. I yelp in pain, but I manage to hobble over to the stairs, steadying myself on the banister. Behind me, I'm aware of the tall man descending, scissors in hand. I half hop, half slide my way down to the bottom of the stairs, but as I reach the last step, I miss my footing and keel forward. Through the open door of the living room, I see her, sitting in a green antique leather armchair, her face lit by the roaring fire. She looks up in alarm as the shadow of the man enters the room. But I can't save her. The door closes, and with it, all light. I'm sat in the sunlight on a small wooden bench outside the front of the house, with Rowena looking down at me. I sip a bottle of cold water that she's given me and nod when, for the third time, she asks if I'm all right. "Are you sure I shouldn't call a doctor?" she asks. "No, I'm fine, really, though my head and my ankle are throbbing." She found me at the bottom of the stairs, lying unconscious. After bringing me round, she brought me out here to the fresh but still baking hot air. I told her I fainted. What else could I say? "It's probably the heat," she suggests. "It's quite overpowering, isn't it?" I take another sip of water and try to stand, unsuccessfully. "There's no rush, really," she says, though I suspect she doesn't mean it. "Do you know much about the old lady who lived here?" I ask, tentatively. "Not really," she replies. "Her husband lived here for over 40 years. He died almost 10 years ago, and since when she's been somewhat of a recluse." "Was she a redhead, do you know?" Rowena shrugs. "Well, as far as I'm aware, she was completely grey." "No, I mean when she was younger." She's looking at me now like I'm mad. Perhaps I am. "I'm sorry, but if you want to know the history of the owner and the house, then you really need to ask in the village." She's looking at her watch. "I'll do that," I say. And I will. I have to find out what happened here, and to who. "So you did say you might put in an offer immediately?" "No," I say, too quickly, too firmly. "We won't be putting in an offer." "I see," she replies curtly, and I can tell she wants to add, "Thank you for wasting my time." I'm relieved when the sound of another car pulling into the driveway avoids the need for an awkward farewell. "Your 3 p.m.s, I say. Rowena nods and turns quickly from me to welcome the new arrivals. I watch her as she walks over and wonder if I should appear to seem like a lunatic by warning them of what I'd seen, or what I thought I'd seen. Rowena shakes the man's hand as he steps out of his car. A very tall, bearded man. And he in turn introduces his wife. A strikingly beautiful woman with copper-coloured hair and sparkling green eyes.